Most people can't focus for 10 minutes straight. A notification buzzes. A thought pops up. They're gone. Meanwhile, a military sniper lies completely still in a muddy ditch for 72 hours. No movement, no sound, tracking a single target. One shot, one chance, zero distractions. And their hit rate over 90%. How? They're not superhumans. They're not born with special brains. They train something you completely neglect. And when you learn what it is, you're going to feel embarrassed about every time you said you couldn't concentrate. Carlos Hathcock, Vietnam. One of the greatest snipers in American military history. He crawled 1,500 meters through enemy territory over 3 days. 3 days. Without being detected, total mental control, complete focus. He became a legend not because of his rifle, because of what was between his ears. I studied his methods. Every interview, every training manual, every documented technique the military uses to build elite cognitive performance. It comes down to 4 systems. And by the end of this video, you'll never waste your focus the same way again. Chapter 1. The Focus Window. You think focus is a personality trait. You either have it or you don't. Wrong. That's the stupidest thing you believe. Focus is a trained physical capacity. Like a muscle. And just like a muscle, most people have let it rot. Here's what's actually happening inside your skull when you try to concentrate. Your prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for sustained attention, has a metabolic limit. It runs on glucose, it depletes, it fatigues. Most people burn through their entire focus window by 9 a.m., scrolling garbage on their phone before they even sit down to do real work. You started the day with a full tank, you spent it on nothing. Snipers don't do that. Sniper training programs, including those used at the US Army Sniper School at Fort Benning, teach what cognitive scientists call attentional control. The deliberate management of where your focus goes and for how long. They don't try to focus longer, they learn to focus smarter. Here's the difference. Most people try to hold focus like they're gripping a rope with sweaty hands, tensing up, fighting distraction, exhausting themselves. That's wrong. Snipers are trained to enter what psychologist Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi spent 30 years studying. He called it flow. That state where focus becomes effortless, where time disappears, where you're locked into a task so completely that the rest of the world ceases to exist. He didn't discover it in snipers. He discovered it in chess masters, surgeons, athletes. But the military reverse-engineered it first. The key? Reducing decision load before the task begins. Your brain makes approximately 35,000 micro-decisions per day. Every single one of them costs something. Attention, energy, focus. Snipers eliminate as many as possible before an operation begins. Same meal, same routine, same pre-mission ritual. Every time, no thinking, no deciding, just execution. You do the opposite. Every morning is a new chaos. What should I eat? What should I wear? Where should I start? What app should I use? You've spent half your focus before you've done anything. Stop that. Here's the protocol. Design your environment the night before. The book you're studying is already open on the desk. Your phone is already in another room. Your water is already on the table. Nothing to decide. Nothing to set up. Nothing to choose. You sit down and you go. Hathcock described his pre-mission state as going blank. Not thinking about the mission, not planning, not rehearsing, just arriving, because everything was already decided. Your brain can't focus and plan at the same time. Pick one. Snipers pick focus. But knowing how to start is only half the problem. The bigger problem is what happens 2 minutes in. That's where most people fall apart. And that's where the second system comes in. Chapter 2. The breath anchor. 2 minutes into studying, your brain sends a signal. This is boring. Go check your phone, get a snack. You probably do it. You don't even notice. You've trained yourself to obey that signal instantly. You are Pavlov's dog, and your phone is the bell. Snipers get that signal too, lying in a ditch for 72 hours. Of course, their brain screams at them to move, to get up, to quit, and here's what they do. They breathe. That sounds like garbage advice. It's not. Here's the science behind it. Dr. Andrew Huberman at Stanford Neuroscience Lab has documented what's called the physiological sigh, a double inhale through the nose followed by a long exhale through the mouth. It's the fastest known way to reduce cortisol and restore cognitive focus within 90 seconds. One breath. That's it. When a sniper feels the urge to break concentration, they don't fight it. They don't argue with their brain. They breathe. The urge passes. They return to the task. You can do this right now, sitting at your desk. The moment you feel the pull to distract yourself, inhale. Inhale again. Exhale long and slow. Your nervous system calms. Your prefrontal cortex comes back online. You stay in the task. But there's another layer to this that goes deeper than breathing. Snipers are taught something called the box breathing protocol. 4 counts in, 4 counts hold, 4 counts out, 4 counts hold. Repeat. The US Navy SEALs use it. The Secret Service uses it. Why? Because it activates your parasympathetic nervous system, which is the biological off switch for panic, distraction, and anxious, unfocused thought. Your sympathetic nervous system is the gas pedal. Stress, urgency, distraction. Your parasympathetic is the brake. Calm, focus, clarity. Schools never teach you to use the brake. They just rev your engine constantly with deadlines and pressure, and you wonder why you can't concentrate. Learn to breathe. No, seriously. Actually learn it. Practice it tonight, it works. But breathing only controls the body. The brain itself needs something else. This is where it gets interesting. Chapter 3. The target lock. Snipers don't stare at a target. That's amateur hour. Staring collapses the visual field, causes eye fatigue, tremors in the hands. They use a technique called soft focus. You look at the target without rigidly fixing on it. You relax the eyes. You expand your peripheral vision. You see everything around the target without losing the target itself. And this is exactly how elite cognitive performers read, study, and process information. Most people read wrong. They fixate word by word, letter by letter. Their eyes ping across the page like a nervous rat. Slow. Exhausting. Poor retention. Speed readers and elite performers use a version of soft focus for reading. They let their gaze fall on the center of a paragraph. They allow the surrounding words to enter peripheral vision. They absorb chunks of information rather than individual units. Tim Ferriss documented this in The 4-Hour Chef. You can triple your reading speed in 2 weeks using this approach, not because you're skipping information, because you're stopping the unnecessary fixation that slows you down. But here's the deeper principle. Your brain has 2 modes of attention. Focused mode, like a laser. Direct, pointed, intense. Diffuse mode, like a lantern. Wide, relaxed, creative. Most people live in forced focused mode, which is actually fake focus mode because they're stressed and distracted and just pretending to be locked in. Snipers alternate between the two deliberately. Before a shot, diffuse mode, relaxed scanning, soft eyes, open awareness. The moment before the trigger, hard focus, total lock. Then back to diffuse. This is called attentional shifting, and researcher Michael Posner at the University of Oregon spent decades proving it's trainable. The key is not staying in one mode too long. Most people have their brain in a weird half state that's neither focused nor relaxed. It's just scattered. And scattered is useless. Here's the protocol. Study for 25 minutes. Hard. Target locked. No compromise. Then 5 minutes of complete diffuse state. Eyes closed. No phone. No input. Just let your mind wander. This isn't a break. This is the integration phase. Your brain is filing what it just learned, connecting it to existing knowledge, building the neural architecture that makes recall possible. You skip this phase and wonder why nothing sticks. Snipers never skip the diffuse phase. It's in the manual. Hit subscribe before you forget that. We don't teach you to focus here and then leave you to forget everything. We teach the whole system. Chapter 4. The compression drill. Now you know how to focus. Now you know how to maintain it. But here's the problem most people never solve. You can be perfectly focused and still learn almost nothing. Because focus without the right encoding strategy is like taking a perfect photo and never saving the file. Gone. Here's what's actually happening in sniper training that you never see in schools. Snipers are tested under pressure constantly, not because their instructors are cruel, because pressure is the mechanism. Research by psychologist Elizabeth Phelps at NYU demonstrated that moderate stress during learning increases the release of norepinephrine in the hippocampus. That's the brain's memory center. That chemical surge acts like a biological highlighter. It marks information as important. Keep this. This matters. Survival depends on it. Your brain can't tell the difference between actual survival stakes and artificial ones. If you create pressure during learning, your brain responds as if the information is critical. It encodes it more deeply. It retrieves it more reliably. Schools figured this out backwards. They create pressure during tests after learning, which just produces anxiety and poor performance. Snipers create pressure during training, during encoding, which produces resilience and deep retention. Here's how you replicate this without joining the military. Teach what you just learned immediately. Don't wait. Close the book. Open your mouth. Explain everything you just absorbed out loud to nobody. To the wall. To your phone camera. To your dog. Doesn't matter. The moment you try to explain something you just learned, your brain exposes every gap. Every fuzzy assumption, everything you thought you understood but actually just recognized. That's the pressure moment. That's the norepinephrine release. That's when it starts to actually stick. Sniper instructors call this a debrief. After every training exercise, every scenario, every simulated mission, there's an immediate verbal debrief. What happened? What worked? What failed? What would you do differently? The verbal recollection immediately after performance is the most powerful encoding tool they have. You have access to this exact tool right now, you're just not using it. The other thing snipers do that you absolutely don't is create deliberate errors. They practice missing on purpose at controlled distances. Then they analyze the miss. Then they correct. Then they practice the correction. Professor Nate Cornell at Williams College demonstrated this in 2009. Learning from errors where you predicted you were correct produces retention rates 2.5 times higher than learning from errors where you expected to fail. The brain is more shocked by unexpected failure, more neurochemical response, more encoding depth. You need to get things wrong. Stop trying to get everything right on the first pass. Build sessions specifically designed to test you beyond your current ability. Fail. Analyze. Correct. That cycle is the actual learning. Everything else is rehearsal for a play you never perform. Here's the thing though, there's still one layer most people miss. And it's the reason some people absorb all of this and still can't perform. Chapter 5. The recovery system. You can't be a sniper if you're running on no sleep, bad food, and constant stress. That's not resilience. That's deterioration that looks like toughness. Real elite cognitive performance requires what military performance researcher Dr. Peter Attia calls the recovery stack: sleep quality, not just duration. Quality. Your brain consolidates memory during slow-wave deep sleep. If you're sleeping 8 hours of garbage fragmented sleep, you're retaining almost nothing from the day before. Snipers know this. Military sleep protocols are not a joke. Temperature, darkness, consistency. No screens, non-negotiable. Nutrition timing. Your prefrontal cortex, the focus center of your brain, is the first thing to degrade under caloric deficit. Snipers eat before operations. Not because they're hungry, because their brain needs fuel. Your study sessions on an empty stomach are handicapped from the start. You're learning in a deficit. Strategic movement. This sounds counterintuitive. But exercise during learning, not before, not after, during, produces what neuroscientist John Ratey at Harvard calls BDNF, brain-derived neurotrophic factor. It's essentially fertilizer for new neural connections. Simple protocol. Every 45 minutes of study, 5 minutes of walking. Not scrolling, walking. Your brain's encoding capacity increases 20% according to Ratey's research. That's not a small number. 20% more retention from walking around your kitchen for 5 minutes. You've been sitting still for hours, convinced that moving would break your focus. You were wrong. Snipers on long operations never stay completely static. Micro movements, position adjustments, blood flow maintenance. They're not fidgeting, They're managing cognitive performance. Now put the whole system together. Here's what a real focus session looks like when you do this correctly. The night before, set the environment. Books open, distractions removed, phone in another room, nothing to decide in the morning. Morning session begins. Box breathing. 4 counts in, 4 hold, 4 out, 4 hold, 3 cycles. Nervous system calibrated. First 25 minutes. Hard focused mode. Target locked, no switching, no checking. Complete the cycle, 5-minute diffuse phase, eyes closed, no input, integration. Immediately after, verbal debrief, close everything. Explain out loud what you just learned. Find the gaps, write them down. They become your next session's target. Every 45 minutes, walk, 5 minutes, no phone, return, repeat, end of session, sleep protocol, temperature, darkness. Sleep protocol, temperature, darkness. Consistency. 6 weeks of this, not 1 week, not 3 days, 6 weeks, and you will not recognize your own capacity. Carlos Hathcock once said that patience was his most important weapon, not his rifle, not his training. Patience, the willingness to wait, to hold, to endure discomfort while maintaining complete clarity of focus on the objective. Most people quit too soon. They try a new system for 4 days and abandon it because it isn't magic. It's not magic. It's training, and training takes time. But here's the brutal truth. If you don't build this, you will lose. Not dramatically, not all at once. Slowly, you will be outpaced by people who took this seriously, by people who trained their focus the way a sniper trains their shot, by people who built the systems, held the discipline, and compounded the advantage over months while you were still arguing with yourself about whether to put your phone in another room. You don't need more information. You have more than enough information. You need to actually do this. But even if you do, there's still one problem. All of this focus, all of this encoding, all of this training means nothing if your attention system is broken. If you learn it today and forget it in 72 hours, what was the point? Most people reading this will hit this exact wall. They'll focus well, they'll encode well, and then it'll be gone. That's why I made this video breaking down the exact memory system that locks everything you learn into permanent recall. It's almost unfair.